China,
France,
Ecuador,
South Korea,
Switzerland,
Taiwan,
Ireland, China,
Switzerland, China.
Ireland.
Where are you from? It's a simple enough question for some. And while most people can answer without hesitation, I've never been able to do that.
Mà hỏi là nhưng mà mẹ nó bạn đang kìa Vanessa nè lợi
Born in Hong Kong, I emigrated to England with my parents when I was just 2 years old. Like many Chinese people at the time, my parents moved there in search for a better life. They were among the tens of thousands of people from Hong Kong who emigrated overseas before the 1997 handover to China, leaving behind their friends and family. They settled down to start a new life in a foreign land. And in this foreign land, this is where I grew up. When I started school at the age of 4, I was the only Chinese girl in the entire school. Being different from everyone else, it wasn't so easy at first. Never mind the language barrier, which I eventually overcame. But I was always shorter than everyone else and smaller than everyone else. I remember one year, I bought shoes that were 2 sizes too big for me, just so that I wouldn't look so different. I never truly felt that I belonged in England, and I never felt completely British. In England, I would always be referred to as the Chinese girl.
Chinese, Japanese, Dainese, and then they used to just go like this, kind of thing.
My brother Andy was born and raised in the UK. He is commonly labelled as a British-born Chinese. Overseas, we were sometimes given other labels and stereotypes too.
I was like, oh, no thanks. Fucking chink.
Yeah,
that's the one that sticks with me, really.
Yeah.
Chink's pretty bad, I think.
Yeah.
But they start making like Bruce Lee noises, or,
yeah.
or they try to like imitate your language. Like, chong, 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 chong.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. You were at least once called Jackie Chan at one point, right?
Yeah.
That's cool.
They all asked me if I knew martial
Kung fu.
arts and kung fu.
Yeah.
No. But the surname's Lee though. Do you know?
Like many of his friends, who also grew up in the UK, Andy returned to Hong Kong 2.5 years ago to look for a job. On paper, he is less Chinese than me. Although he is a Hong Kong permanent resident, he was denied a Hong Kong passport and the Chinese home return permit. To go to China, he needs to get a visa, just like a foreigner.
Well, I look Chinese. I have black hair, small eyes, yellow skin. I speak the language. My family is Chinese. My whole family is Chinese. I eat Chinese food.
it looks like the Ruben here, really talking about what matters in life.
I think I'm 60% Chinese and 40%
So exact.
Canadian. Should I say something?
Yeah.
我唔知講咩，但係而家。
In Hong Kong, I also met other friends who spent a significant part of their childhood in Canada. Raised in a culture outside of our parents' culture, we are the product of a global phenomenon. As people became more mobile, it became easier to relocate elsewhere. And the result? Third culture kids. Often described as cultural hybrids, we are kids who struggle with more than one cultural identity. Kids who struggle to completely fit into one single culture. Rootless, often confused, many of us struggle with the concept of home and where we are from. Third culture is the combination of our parents' culture and the place where we grew up.
I'm Catherine. I am 21 years old. I am born in Hong Kong, but I grew up in Toronto, Canada. And I've been back in Hong Kong for like 10 years. By definition, I am Chinese. By how I feel most of the time, I feel like I'm not very Chinese. I don't know if that makes sense. It's really hard to describe because it's just like this. It's like I'm a mix of both in a really weird way. So I'm neither, but at the same time I'm both. So yeah, it's kind of weird because then sometimes when I was in university, I considered myself an international local. So I'm kind of local, but I'm not local at the same time.
When I returned to Hong Kong, I felt, finally, I look like everyone else now. But I am reminded every day that I am not the same. Here, I am a Juxing, Guai Mui Zai, not 100% Chinese.
No, I feel like I fit in until I look like a Hong Konger until I start speaking in English because my default language is English, and then they would know. 一知你就唔係香港出世，唔係香港長大㗎啦，啲英文係講成，或者啲中文講成咁。And I don't feel like I have a strong accent. Sometimes I stutter, and then they'll be like, 都唔係香港人嚟嘅，其實 like that.
A colleague of mine actually said to me that I'm a banana, and I was actually quite offended by it because actually, literally, what it means is you're yellow on the outside and white on the inside.
So every time I hear that, I feel like, do you really have to say that? Do you have to make that a point? You know?
They imply that, you went out, you go out drinking a lot.
Okay,
And you're a lot more open in certain ways.
Right.
But then they basically categorise you as a Guaijai though, because you've lived abroad and you've been studied abroad. So you're not one of them, that means basically.
Why? Mummy? 冇啊，啱啱食完飯啦。你呢? Although I consider myself bilingual, I struggle with reading and writing, a common disability among Chinese third culture kids. Because of this, finding a job in Hong Kong was difficult. When you look Chinese, you're expected to know the language. And when you don't, even normal, everyday tasks can seem daunting.
I didn't want to tell my friends I didn't know how to read, so I would order the same thing every single day. I would just say,叉燒飯, 凍奶茶唔該. Like every single day, and they'd be like, oh, you really like that? And I'm like, yeah.
Say, for example, I was in an alleyway getting beaten up or something, then what do I shout? I don't know. I don't know what I would shout, because in the UK I would probably shout help, but do I say bombs out?
When I'm with a taxi driver, sometimes they'll start talking to me, And I hate that a lot because I'm like, oh crap, I'm not gonna understand what they're gonna say to me. And I'm right, because I can't. It's not much of a difficulty as it is just kind of awkward and me feeling uncomfortable because I feel like I should be able to understand them, but I can't. We got on a taxi. I said where we wanted to go in Chinese to the taxi driver, and then I turned to my friends, I'm like, guys, do you think my Chinese improved at all? Because I haven't been back to Canada in so long, right? And they're like, I think your Chinese got more Canadian sounding. I'm like, great. Great. I haven't been to Canada in so long, but I somehow got more Canadian sounding. I can sort of follow along a casual conversation. I can't listen to the news for the life of me, because that's like an impossible task that I've never been able to do.
I can't read and write, which is a pretty big deal. Like, if I go into the restaurant and I can't really order what I want, or I can't see the different food available. It's one of the things I regret, actually, not being able to read Chinese. That means I miss out a lot of the culture, like poetry or songs, and all these kind of things that I'd probably be able to draw from, draw inspiration from. I can't because I just can't read it.
So I think if I knew how to read Chinese, yeah, I'll find myself more local. Like I'll be able to blend in more. I think knowing the Chinese language definitely makes you more Chinese.
Chinese. Yes. My parents never let me forget that I'm Chinese. I spoke Cantonese at home, and we were taught about Chinese culture and traditions. At the same time, though, we celebrated Western culture and traditions too. And while there are some things that are inherently Chinese about me, there are also many things that are Western about me too.
Because we've been integrated into a different society, I think, and then that obviously influences how you act and how you grow up.
The stuff we talk about is different as well, right? Our childhood's different as well. So if I talk about stuff I did when I was a kid, I can relate to these guys, but I can't relate to the local.
Play football every day.
We didn't have phones.
Yeah, we didn't have phones. What was it to play Game Boy?
Play a game. We probably watched the same cartoons, right?
Yeah. Power Rangers.
Captain Planet.
Oh, Captain Planet!
Captain Planet.
Is that the one with the ring?
Oh, he was awesome.
Oh,
He
that
was
was
awesome.
wicked. Yeah, I remember Captain Planet.
To integrate into the local culture, thinking to know the stuff that they laugh about and just the local banter, which is a lot different to the UK banter.
There are things about like being local Hong Kong that I don't do or I can't do. Maybe like the places I hang out or the things that I do aren't very typical Hong Kong. One of the first friends I made, she was a local Hong Konger, so she grew up here, she went to school here. Not an international school, I don't think. And then one day we were walking on campus and there was a band that was playing on campus. I think it was Bruno Mars. And I was like, oh, I love this song. And then I asked her if she knew it and she didn't. And I was really surprised because Bruno Mars is, I guess, kind of big. And when she talked about Hong Kong, like celebrities or Cantopop singers, I had no idea who they were either. So it was kind of like, all right, we just don't watch or listen to the same things at all. I have some other local friends who I'm more close with because we have more common interests. Like when I was in my dance team, most of them were like local Hong Kongers. And because we all danced, we all got along. But there was still, I felt like there was still a kind of a wall between us because maybe I was too afraid to engage them in conversations because they were always speaking in Chinese, and then I didn't want to go like, hey guys, now let's speak in English or something.
Family, friends, the people you meet, the music you listen to, the movies you watch, the books you read, the places you've visited, your upbringing, and the things that you are exposed to. All these things shape reflect the outcome of your culture. And ultimately, it makes you the person that you are.
I think growing up biculturally is a good thing, because rather than just being born in one country and knowing how, say, if I was born in the UK, knowing just the British lifestyle, I know both the Chinese lifestyle and the British lifestyle, so it's kind of mixed together. And I think because you know two cultures, it's interesting.
I can be from Hong Kong and I can be from Toronto, so I feel like it's not too big of a deal for me most of the time.
I might be spending the rest of my life trying to figure out my cultural identity. And I will probably never find the answer. But I figured it's actually made me into the person I am today. Not totally white, not totally yellow. I am different because I'm both.